Oh, we are live, I think. We're straight away. Guys, I think we're already on. So, welcome everyone to episode 47 of the Town Social. Took us by surprise there. Usually count down.
Very
Straight into it. Straight into it.
professional.
Professional as always. That's us on the Town Social. We like to do things properly. But welcome everybody to episode 47. We have so much to talk about. Last time we left you was before the Southampton game. The Southampton game was a bit of a roller coaster. It didn't come out on the right side of it, and then we had a romantic evening, didn't we, under the lights on Valentine's Day? It was a physical game with a happy ending, just like Gaz likes it on Valentine's night. And then going from that set us up really nicely into what was Worthy's final game, because on the Thursday at 8 p.m. we received the news that Andre Breitenreiter will be Town's new head coach. Signed a contract until 2025. Let's hope that the bloke sees it out. But we'll get on to him soon. But we're going to talk about the whole game, lads. And this was billed as a fitting farewell for Worthy, who's done such a good job in his short tenure. And always going to be difficult because the Sunderland game took a lot out of the lads. It was a monumental effort. It was a great result. It always had potential this to be a bit of a banana skin, because Hull and Mugs are a decent side, and I thought we looked quite leggy. I thought the effort that we put into the Sunderland game showed at the beginning of the game. Hull started well. Philogene had a good chance that was saved by Nichols, but then the corner comes in. Matos tries to clear it, makes a bit of a hash of it, skies it, comes back down. Greaves sticks a leg out, turns, shoots, and unfortunately, I think Nichols, he gets a hand to it. Could he have been a bit stronger with his hand to keep it out? I think probably. But before we know it, lads, we're 7 minutes in and it's 1-0. And then against a team like Hull, we already have a bit of a mountain to climb, don't we?
Yeah, I think your leggy comment's a fair one, Nick. I thought we looked really tired. They'd put a lot of effort in against Sunderland and Southampton, of course, the Saturday before. So he'd played 3 games in 8 days, and they'd really put some work rate in. I think that you have to wonder whether the levels of fitness are where we need to be. But of course, I've got quite a chunk of players coming back from injury, so maybe that played a part of it. Ironically, the one person who had been rested against Sunderland that came back into the team, Jonathan Hogg, also looked extremely leggy, and he hadn't even got any excuses, had he? Which was a bit ironic. But I was impressed with Hull's football. I thought Tufan and Carvalho in the middle were. I mean, you can see why Carvalho should be a Premier League player, really, that he had space every time he got the ball. And I thought they absolutely dominated the game. Matos and Hogg didn't really get anywhere near him. I thought that both wingers caused us problems. And I guess having played 3 games under Worthy, Hull will have had a chance to look at the videos and try and work out how Worthy was going to play, and they probably would have been able to work it out. So maybe there was a bit of that. It probably was a game too far. I thought Wiles looked really off it. Somebody who's had a bit of praise off most of the fans in the last few games really struggled. And Rodoni too. I mean, I have to be honest, when they made the subs and they made the triple sub, I expected Hogg to be the one that got the old shepherd's crook, but it wasn't. It was Matos, wasn't it, that they brought off. And the second he brought Kasuma on, we looked like a different team. We actually played a little bit more on the front foot, and Sorba started to really shine again. But it was disappointing, really. When you mentioned the save, Nick, and I'm not sure Nichols shouldn't have saved that goal. He didn't hit it that hard. He got a full hand on it. I expect Nichols to be turning that round the post. So that was disappointing. And I thought, although we got possibly an undeserved equaliser in the last minute, it's the most Huddersfield Town thing in the world, isn't it? 93rd minute of 94, and we still somehow managed to chuck another one in the back of the net. But I don't know how many times I have to whinge about us being so easy to cross against. It was same old. Winger went wide, rolled it back to the full-back, he put a cross in, and before it was 2-1 and it was game over. But I thought the Hull fans were brilliant, by the way. I thought they've been the best fans we've been seeing this year. I thought Hull are probably the best footballing team we've seen this year. I thought in the first half, the old man, the referee, I thought she bought every single go to the floor, every single dive. She bought absolutely everyone. And I still can't get my head around the fact she booked Sorba Thomas for a bloke standing inside the 10-yard line on a corner. I still can't get my head around that. But I thought second half, she probably controlled it a lot better. But Yeah, it was a. I can imagine they were pretty deflated, the boys in the dressing room afterwards, after fighting your way back into a game like that against a team who, well, I do fancy for the top six. By the way, they've spent some proper money of all, and I think they're doing a good job. I can imagine they were pretty disappointed, but yeah, what do you boys think?
I think the thing for me was you said, you tweeted this, and I nearly replied to you. You said undeserved, and I couldn't disagree with you more. I thought we completely deserved at least a point out of that. We've hammered them second half for me. That all because I'm in South Stand. We've hardly seen any play down our end. Yes, it was ineffectual to a certain extent. Why we persisted in playing without a number 9 was just beyond me. When we were doing a lot of crossing into the box, it was just beyond me. But I thought effort, heart, passion, pace, when Hogg went off, made a big difference, like you said, when Kasumu came on. But I think we at least deserved a point. But I completely agree with you about the whole City fans. I tweeted something like that this morning. They had an absolutely 100% impact on that game for me. Loud all the way through. Absolutely excellent levels of banter, although I hate that word banter, but they got their Mickey taking right for me. And I think they helped their team get a fair bit out of that game. So hats off to them. That's a class away performance off the pitch, bit time wasting and all that type of stuff. But you can't be hypocritical, and like the goalkeeper, I was going mental at him in first half, but he was just doing a better version of what Nichols does. So you can't be hypocritical and complain about what they were doing, because it's exactly what we do when we're in front. So it's what every team does. But I definitely thought we deserved something from it. I've never collapsed to the floor in a dramatic fashion like I did when that ball went in. I just slumped down like my life had ended. I could not believe it. I thought, we've only got a minute to survive here. Surely we can hold out for a minute, and we couldn't. But it's just, that's why we love it, isn't it? It's 90 seconds of absolute ecstasy, and then agony as well. Yeah, great stuff. It's why we keep coming back in it. So I can't say I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think we deserved a point for me.
Yeah, I agree, fellas. I think we probably saw earlier in the week against Southampton and Sunderland, two teams that were kind of, to some extent, all three teams were possession based, but I think the first two were probably a lot slower with the possession, and I think second half against Southampton they were a lot quicker, and I think that's where Hull really took us apart. They were a lot quicker. It was a lot more direct, kind of moving the ball quicker and not dilly dallying with it at the back. They were moving it forward, with some pace and as you said, Gaz, those two lads, that turf fan or two fan, I thought just ran the show. He's I would say he's on the portly side of things, but he didn't really need to. He sat in midfield. But he sat in the midfield and he ran the show, didn't he? And it was, we're not quite the same level of flair, but it was like watching Tomlin when Tomlin used to run the show against us a little bit. So, but I agree. I think probably the Wellington came in and he, when he played, he was blood and thunder and, kind of rock and roll football a little bit himself. And I think the thing that really carried us against Southampton for that first half largely and against Sunderland to a lesser extent was a high press, intensity, work rate, bit of energy. And I thought we just completely, as you've all pointed out, Wiles was the standout one that seemed to lack that, and that let us down a bit. And as you've alluded to, actually, I think probably Hogg could have done a better job against Sunderland. With not quite the movement and the pace of the midfield, they were a bit more. I don't know, stagnant maybe in midfield with Sunderland, whereas Hull were a lot quicker and we looked 10 times better with that energy from Kasumu and driving past players You know, he was brilliant. I was a little disappointed with Nichols. I think possibly just sticking up for him a little bit. I think he was maybe saw it quite late, if I'm honest with you. And as Nick alluded to, Matos's effort at trying to get clear of a ball that he should have just volleyed straight into the stand, you know. And then I think Hogg, Matos, Pearson, off the top of my head, all just stood and watched their centre half kind of nudge them out the way, head it to the other centre half, who, as Nick says, just literally just swung a foot at it, didn't he? You know, and then the second goal again, it's just tame defending, and I think Worthington saw where we fell down against Southampton with kind of that weak defensive kind of five, as you might. The three seemed to not quite know how to play the position. So we went to a 4 against Sunderland. I thought we were spot on against Sunderland defensively. And I think largely we could say that was about Bolker being in that 4. But then we, against Hull, you know, 2 big lads in box just caused chaos for free kicks and corners. And against people like Pearson and Lees and Bolker, that shouldn't really be happening. So I think that's probably where I would hope that, you know, that the new manager can just bring a little bit of kind of calm or a little bit of organisation to that defensive line.
I thought Pearson on Saturday against Hull struggled, but, you know, to be fair, against Sunderland, he came up against, outside of the Leeds team, probably the best winger, the most informed winger in the Championship, and I thought he did an absolutely brilliant job on him, because Sunderland's strategy was give the ball to Jack Clark. That seemed to be pretty much their only plan, and they come into the game, they'd taken 7 from 9 at Sunderland in the 3 previous matches, so, you know, they were banging form when they came to town, and you know, it was another 30-odd percent possession, victory for Town. But I know Nick's favourite subject, which is Huddersfield Town set pieces. That actually came to the fore, didn't it? You know, we actually got rid of a set piece coach, and we actually came up with a set piece. It was amazing what happens when you try something different. I think it must be the first set piece Sauber hasn't taken since about 1978. And, you know, I put it corner now, and it was you know, somebody following it in as well, not just the free kick, but the fact that somebody was following it in. And I think, did he chest it into the net, Pearson? I don't think he headed it, did he? I think he just hit him and went in. So I think, just thinking about the Hogg thing, you know, so obviously now I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, people saying now, you know, Breitenreiter will have seen Hogg and what's he going to do? And a lot of people saying that he shouldn't be anywhere near the starting lineup now. Now we've got Matos and Kasumu. But what do you lot think? I mean, should you know, Hogg always gets picked. We said this the other week, didn't we? That no matter what people say about Hogg, we've been saying he's been finished for 5 seasons. But every manager that comes in, he's the first name on the team sheet. So he clearly brings something. So, you know, what would you do out of them 3?
Positioning and an organisation, I'd say he brings. If we go with the Breitenreiter brings, I think he plays with one person in that position with a kind of a single pivot. I'm not sure someone like Matos has the kind of patience and the awareness around him. He seems to like to be here, there, and everywhere. I'd be intrigued to see whether he has the kind of the ability to sit and actually play that role. I think Hogg does. I think what we saw the other day was he just seemed to get overrun by a more youthful and probably a quicker team. You know, they were playing through us so quickly that we didn't seem to kind of compress the kind of block so much, so we just gave him a load of space. But I'd say Hogg brings kind of that positional awareness and that you know, that discipline in midfield where some of the others probably don't have that.
It's leadership, discipline, experience, a calm head when everyone's panicking. His organisation, it does bring a lot. The downsides are obviously his passing ability, which isn't great. Let's be honest. And although he's still probably one of the fittest blokes in that squad, his pace just isn't there. And as we kind of morph and develop into our new style, and we'll talk about Breitenreiter's style and what is used, what is deployed in other teams later. I still think there may be a role for Hogg, but to me, at his age, we need to start thinking beyond Hogg now and keeping him in and around the team, but trying to slowly edge him out towards a bench more. You still need to have characters like Hogg around the dressing room, but I don't think we should be relying on him now moving forward. I think we need to start moving away from that now.
I think you're right. I think he's a cultural architect. He sets the tone in that dressing room. He sets the standards on the pitch, training pitch, if not on the game pitch. But I think he just seems a little hesitant and slower than to react. And him and Bergsog are the two players that get my heart rate up, but for different reasons. You never know when Bergsog is going to stand on the ball and just like try and take 15 men on, and you never know when Oggy's just going to completely slow it down and then lose the ball in a difficult position for us. So I think in terms of how he runs himself and how he looks after himself and the standards that he sets, that's what Breitenreiter will he'll know about that stuff. He'll have spent all the time since he's been appointed looking at all the profiles that they've got. The amount of information that they've got available on the players is just immense these days. So I think he'll have done a lot of work on working out who's who. But I think I agree with all you guys that it's time for him to let Kasumu and let Matos take that mantle on and provide either the one pivot or the two pivot thing, whatever we're going to play. But yeah, it's I think we're getting towards it's his time. I think I'll be surprised if he gets a contract extension next year. I think it'll be because I'm right in thinking his contract's up.
Yeah.
I will be surprised if they extend. But yeah, he's been a fantastic servant, obviously. But I think it's time for him to go behind the scenes and keep doing what he's done, but in a different way.
It's his mobility for me. I think that's what Kasumu does have that Hogg doesn't have now. He's got that mobility, and I think if fairness to Hogg, to judge him in a game where he's playing against two centre midfielders, who I said that in my opinion, Carvalho should be playing in the Premier League. I mean they were genuinely that good. You have to. So the next question is, but were they that good because we were that bad? Well, no, I don't think they were. I'm not sure that the difference when Kasumu came on was Carvalho had already gone off, so that gave him a little bit more space. And I'm with you. I think I'm not sure Matos is ready for that. You've got to sit there, hold your position. I think Kasumu can do it. I'm not sure Matos can. He's too much all action, Matos. Yeah, and I'd rather have Matos further up the field where he can actually influence the game in an attacking sense. Because that was one thing on Saturday. I noticed that we got the press absolutely spot on against both Saints and Sunderland, but our press looked really poor on Saturday. They played it round us so easily from the back, and they seemed to know when to pick to go along as well. They had such pace in behind. It didn't matter, did it? They could go short or they could go long. So yeah, I think he'll get another year, Hogg. I think he'll get a contract extension. I can see, as you say, he's a standard setter, and I can see Breitenreiter wanting him involved. And Matos isn't going to be here next year, is he? So even if you bring another loan in or you sign somebody to replace Matos, Hogg's not exactly a terrible backup, is he? He's not exactly a terrible second or third choice. So I could see, and I could imagine I could get a contract somewhere else, though. As I say, every manager's ever played with him, they rate him, don't they? So, but yeah, I think it's his mobility for me. That's the problem now. His ability to cover 10 or 15 yards and make a tackle in a fullback position when a fullback's gone AWOL. That's where he really struggles.
Do we think the personnel was right for this game, lads? Because to me, further up the pitch, we had Karoma, Radone, Thomas, Wiles trying to create something. But for me, this game was crying out for more of a Radulovic type player, someone who can maybe hold the ball up and then people feed off, just to give a bit of a different dimension. So maybe for me, I would have probably tried Radulovic up top and then played Thomas, Karoma off. But I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? To me, I'm surprised he didn't get some game time, because although he's been a bit weak and he's been bullied a little bit, he has shown in at times some good touches and some good link-up play, some good hold-up play. although he's not great with his head, he can hold the ball up and bring people into play. And I thought that this game suited him more. And it's a bit of a shame that we haven't been able to see what he could have brought to it.
Yeah, definitely, Nick. I thought he, at the very least, could have occupied the two centre halves a lot better than Chroma did. Chroma kind of just sat under the armpit of one or the other of the two centre halves, and although he kind of huffed and puffed a lot, he wasn't the focal point needed. And as I said before, I think probably Hogg was more suited to the Sunderland game, and would have been better with, probably with Kasumu and Matos in the middle of the park, and appreciating that he has played well. Maybe that meant Karoma probably dropping to the bench, because I think Radoni and Sorba have they've played well in recent weeks. One thing I did notice as well at the weekend was they started on the opposite wings, and for the life in me, honestly, I just cannot understand why you would put Sorba Thomas on the left wing. He's not a cutting in, he's not a winger that cuts in. He wants to get to the byline and cross the ball, and it didn't work. Kind of first, however long they tried to persist with it, maybe 30, 40 minutes, something like that. Second half, coincidentally, he goes back out to the right wing and has a great game again. So yeah, I'd probably knock that on the head, and I'd also possibly look at knocking Pearson at right back on the head. Although I do agree with what Gaz said, he absolutely pocketed Jack Clark. But he's kind of, again, a bit like Hogg, his mobility from right back causes us probably some challenges, I think, at times. And I don't think it benefits us at all to have Brodie Spencer, who quite clearly is a fantastic right back, playing at left back, as good a job as he does. I think it takes something away from him as well. So yeah, I think possibly we did get it slightly wrong on Saturday with the selection of the team.
The fact that where they brought Danny Ward on before Bojan perhaps tells us a bit of something, really. I don't know whether he's not pulling his weight in training, whether he's looked at him and thought, well, I'm not sure he's ready for Championship rigor or what. I don't really know, because I think I'm with you. They brought Della on, and of course he did what he does, which is he got us excited and he made a few brilliant runs and caused them a few issues. Actually, I was surprised he didn't make changes at half time. I know he did it early, which was encouraging, 15 minutes in or whatever it was. Most managers wait till 60 minutes, don't they, or 70 minutes. And he made the changes. But I would have hooked up Wiles and Radoni. I know Radoni went on to score the goal, so it shows what I know. But I would have had Radoni and Wiles off, and I would have stuck Sorba out on the right. I'd have pulled Karoma over to the left, and I would have stuck Della up top, and I would have put Kasumu in for the second half. This Radulovic debate seems to be just going around in circles a bit, doesn't it? I think everybody can see he's got a bit of something, and he's good with his feet. But that's not enough in the Championship, is it? And I think we all thought we were getting an oven-baked Championship number 9, the way the club perhaps built him up. But he's not played football for a long time either. Is it like 3 or 4 months since the finished or something? So the guy's not played much footy, has he, either? So, I don't know too much about the new coach, and we'll get on to him in a little bit. And interestingly, he's a head coach, not a manager, by the way. And maybe I sort of alluded to before, the fitness thing. Maybe we need to look at fitness. And I know that I was listening to something. It might have been on the Radio Leeds thing after the game, actually. Somebody was talking about the fact that Warnock's teams aren't always the fittest, and maybe that's a legacy of a really poor pre-season, is that we're running out of steam. So I think there's some fitness and some certainly some strengthening work to do for me, and hopefully Radulovic will benefit from a bit of that.
I think you're right about the poor pre-season, having a kickabout on Warnock's back step, that doorstep hasn't got down as well as it might have done with the hierarchy of the club, from what I understand. So, there's a little bit of a grumpiness about that. I just think he's not fit. Ladalovic, like you say, hasn't played for 4 months. You just wonder how he's settling in. I was at the Sheffield Wednesday game, and I can remember leaving, and he'd come off injured, and he got clattered and come off injured, and he was leaving at the same time we were from the bit of the ground that we were in, and he had a lot of people around him, but nobody from town was anywhere near him, and he just looked a little bit lost. He looked like he got his mates with him, but like nobody was bothering him, nobody was going anywhere near him, and I just thought it just cut a bit of a sad figure, really. And I just wondered whether or not he's settling in as well as he might like to. Brand new country. Well, it isn't brand new, is it? He were at Brighton, wasn't he? But his brand new club, maybe expecting to do pre-season at his old club, and then he's suddenly here. So yeah, I just it's one to keep an eye on for me, because my view, he's just not fit. When he came on at City, he looked like a decent player, and could have done. I think it was Nick was saying, could have done that job where it goes up front, and then it gets held and come off. What frustrated me about the second half was the number of crosses that were raining in from both sides, and all their two centre halves were just going bosh and nodding it away, because we had absolutely nothing in there. We only looked dangerous when we got it on the deck and we scored from the ball being on the floor, not from it being just crossed into the non-existent Steve Mounier that we would imagine would be there, but wasn't there. It was just a bit frustrating. So yeah, and there must be a real good reason why he's brought sick note Danny Ward on. If he's fitter than Radulovic,
he's not played any football though, Andy.
Yeah, so he must be about as fit as me and you were when we played together for Net Terriers. This lad, he must be really, really unfit if he can't get in front of Danny Ward.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Do you think, fellas, there's an element there though of, a little bit like from the Southampton game? Would you have picked Nakayama to be the one that dropped for the Sunderland game? And I'm at the risk of sounding like bigoted. Do you think he's got almost the Danny Cowley syndrome of, I know who my solid lads are that I want in the trenches, Matty Pearson at right back, Brodie Spencer at left back, Danny Ward, if I want a focal point, I'm going to have Danny Ward rather than this young lad who's kind of come from the Finnish league or wherever and perhaps isn't quite used to the physicality of it. Is it that kind of mentality? I don't know.
I get the experience and Hull are a physical side, so I get that he think he might be bullied, but at the end of the day, you only improve by playing. You only gain fitness by playing first team games. You can get so much fitness experience from training and B team games and such forth, but you really only get full fitness by playing regular first team games. And we talked about Ben Wiles, and he looked absolutely knackered. But that game against Sunderland is probably the only game that he's played. He played a full game for God knows how long. Well, if he plays more full first team games, his fitness is going to improve and he's going to get better. I just think sometimes you've got to. We're very, very impatient sometimes, and players get sidelined. But you only really see improvements with regular first team football, and they need to be playing. We've spent a lot of money on this lad by all accounts. He's here for the long term. We need to see him play. We need to develop him. I know it's difficult, but really this game for me was a perfect opportunity to play to his strengths. He didn't necessarily have to score goals, but just help keep the ball up the right end of the pitch, take a bit of pressure off and bring others into play. But it just didn't happen.
And
overall,
it's a little bit like we said earlier, Nick. Sorry, it's a little bit like we said earlier though as well. Hogg ain't going to be here forever, and neither's Danny Ward. And so actually, the answer shouldn't be Danny Ward. Really, it should be Bojan, and we should be, quite as you say, we should be trying to embrace him and bring him into kind of been able to play in the Championship. I guess probably some of it is possibly where we are in the league, and at the end of the day, there's no time for that kind of sentiment or trying to bring someone up to speed. We just need the results, don't we?
I do think even if everybody's fit, putting Ward to one side, and we're going to play with one, which it sounds like we might be doing. I would say Della and probably Healy are in front of Radulovic in terms of getting a start anyway. Healy's a proven Championship. He's played, umpteen games at Championship level. Della is, he's a bit unpredictable, but he can absolutely cause Championship defences issues and scores goals. So you look at that already puts Radulovic third in the pile, possibly fourth behind Ward. You've got Keane Harrott to come back. I mean, this is ridiculous, this, isn't it? 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were crying about the fact we didn't have any strikers. Now you're saying, what are we going to do with 5 strikers when they're all fit?
I'll bet Harrott doesn't come back.
But
for me, I'd like.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yeah, yeah, just to clarify.
Thanks for that.
To me, I'd like to see Della down the left as a left forward, because that's where his best position is, according to him. That's where he used to play. So I'd be interested to see how he linked up with a striker on the left forward position. Maybe like a Healy or something like that. I don't know. But, I mean, lads, Johnny Worthington, 4 games. Yeah, I mean, you never know as these caretaker coaches. Rarely do we have spells where it works out, do we? A lot of the time we have these caretakers and we lose most of the games. And I think after everyone was on such a down, after Darren Moore went out the door with the way that we were playing, and Worthy's come in and he's got a good team around him, but he's just stripped it back to basics and completely transformed the feeling around the place. The players looked invigorated. We talked about the shackles off, giving them the freedom to express themselves and to have a go and get forward. And I'm struggling to think of a spell where we've had a caretaker manager that's had such a positive impact as John Worthington. Not just in terms of the way that the team's played, but in terms of the upturn in results and the general feeling around the fan base as well.
Yeah, I think Worthington was just a kind of tonic that we needed, and I think it is exactly that. It was a tonic. He played with his heart on his sleeve and passion, and he that's how we ended up playing. I just think it was a shame that he wasn't in charge for QPR and Blackburn, because I reckon we'd have got a result at both places with Worthington in charge. And probably that's the only shame, I think, with kind of his spell. I think in reality, I know there was calls after the Sunderland game for why don't we just give him it for the rest of the season. I think, to be honest with you, it's run its course to some extent. I'm not sure it was sustainable how we played for that period of time, and I think he probably knew that maybe, and if he'd have been in charge for, or known he was going to be in charge for a longer period of time, he possibly might not have played quite as high octane stuff as what he did. But I think he just came in and quite as you said, Nick, just really basic stuff, gave them basic instructions and asked them to do, ultimately, if you've got a team of lads that are like Sorba, that are like Radoni, Matos, Kasumu, if you put them on a lead, what benefit is that? If you tell them go out and someone like Bergzog, if you tell him if you try and restrict Bergzog, you're on a hiding to nothing, aren't you? So to me, it is as simple as lads go and express yourself and play football, and I think that's probably what Worthington did, and I just hope that Andre comes in and does exactly the same. With a little bit more kind of structure and probably organisation around the team. There's no reason why that isn't a mid-table kind of championship side. You know, as we were just alluding to there, as Gaz was alluding to, you know, we've now got probably four pretty decent championship strikers, maybe 5 decent championship strikers. We've got a midfield that would do well out, probably just outside of the top 6 in the championship. So yeah, I think we've got some real foundations to build on, and to me, I think it just excites me, and it's very strange to say this, but it excites me to see Helik and Bolker playing at centre half. As daft as it sounds, you know, being at centre half it's not the most glamorous of positions, but them two just with Brodie Spencer, you know, and actually I'm looking forward, hopefully, to seeing Headley as well come back and play at full back, and then really see what Headley and Spencer can do at either side of them two. So yeah, I think with a full team, we've got the makings of a very good, well, a very strong championship mid-table, maybe upper mid-table championship side.
Yeah, I think we said this the other week, didn't we? I think Worthy's just a decent bloke, isn't he? I think he's a proper bloke. He's genuine. He's obviously straight and honest with people, which is appreciated. He knows the club. He knows how the fans are. He knows what we want to see, and as a consequence, I think he managed to deliver that message to the players in a way that they managed to take it on board really simply and really quickly. And I was really impressed with his humility. You know, he always talked about we and they, never I, which is really difficult actually, because when you're asked questions in the press, they want people to talk about themselves, and he managed to avoid that. I do think the club got lucky. You know, these things can be an absolute disaster, can't they, and ruin potentially a career, but it didn't. You know, I think he's had a little bit of luck with some of the fitness of 1 or 2 players. We do have to question whether, as soon as Darren Moore's gone, 1 or 2 people suddenly are available and fit. You know, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'm sure not all of it's a coincidence, is it? But the guy's got a positive mindset, and I think I can understand if I were in his shoes, I could understand why I wouldn't have wanted the job. You know, you've been with the club a long time. You love working with the academy, love developing young lads into proper footballers. You know, that would have ended if he'd have taken the job properly. He would have been sacked at some point, and then he would have lost all of that tie with the club, all of that. So that's not to say I don't think he ever will be given a chance or want a chance with a proper job on his own. But you know, I think I'm glad it's turned out how it is, and also I'm really glad the lads have produced some results for him, because you know, let's be honest, without the 6 points he's taken for us in the last 4 games, we'd be right in the shit. We'd be second bottom. So you know, we were lucky really, and your question, Nick, about whether we waited too long, I think we did. Honestly, I do. I think we wasted January, and we debated this to in and fro in. You got to get players in for more to have a chance, but then you bring the players in and now it happens, you wasted January. Well, we nearly did, didn't we? We nearly did. And I'm with you. I think in the previous 3 games where we took 3 points, I think we'd have taken 6 or 7 points, and we'd be sitting a lot prettier now. But it is what it is. I wish the lad well. You know, I'm grateful to him. I've met him on a couple of occasions, and I have to say he comes across as an absolute gent, and he's a credit to the club. So big thank you from me. And I do have a funny feeling his time hopefully will come, because if the last few weeks have been on to go by, I think he does a good job.
I happened to see him at City, and he was there with his family as a supporter. You know, so that, number one, that resonates with you. But he was there with they're a young family, they're probably primary school age kids, and that just sat in my mind a little bit. You know, actually, the old Duff situation. Does he want to uproot his kids if as you say, he takes the job, he loses his job, and then he's not got that settled kind of situation in the academy. So yeah, I think you're exactly right, Gaz. I think it's just a situation of probably wrong time for him, but I think we've got to nurture him, and I think we've got to look after him because A, you know, as you say, his time probably will come, but B, we've got an absolutely fantastic caretaker manager for any point that we need one, haven't we? You know, so yeah. And just probably one other thing, and I thought it was a real simple thing. One of his first press conferences, they said to him, I think it was Chris Stokes from ITV said to him, "You've got Sheffield Wednesday coming up. Do you wish it wasn't as bigger occasion as that?" And he just said, "No," you know, as if to sort of say, "It's what I eat for breakfast, mate," you know, type thing. And that just summed him up to me. He just thrives on it. He just, as you've said, he's just a great bloke. He just gets Huddersfield Town. I pretty much, maybe after the first Darren Moore press conference, didn't listen to them. I listened to Worthington's, and I was like a kid at Christmas. Just things resonated with you, and you just thought, do you know what? The blokes is just what we need at this minute in time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think I'll echo everything that you guys have said. I think he does what players need and people that work in teams need, and that he keeps it simple for what he wants people to do. You know, if you've got the ball, I want you to go forward with it. I want you to find a forward pass. But whatever his instructions are, he'll tell it how it is. That Sheffield Wednesday game, I was in the director's box. We took my son for his birthday, and we were right on the front row, so we could see Worthy bouncing around, getting excited. And Chris Powell was on the Owls bench, and he kept sort of sneaking up to fourth official and going, "Oh, look, they're doing a naughty thing over there." And he proper looked like an oily sort of so-and-so. And Worthington spotted him, and he gave him the biggest volley you can sit there. And he really gave it him. And Powell sort of wandered off, and he didn't come back again, which I absolutely loved. And that's sometimes what clubs need, is somebody who's willing to stand up and fight and be that role model in terms of how because that team was very much like him. You know, it turned itself around and became positive and started to make things happen and really started battling. And that's what the guy on the touchline was going for him. He wasn't stood there wearing his Jack Wolfskin jacket when he should have been wearing his his town top. He wasn't like Darren Moore, lovely bloke by all accounts, but no energy, no passion, nothing to draw from when you're really struggling. You look over and there's a bloke just stood there, and then nothing from him. So yeah, a lot of time for him. And I think you're right about how many managers have we had in the last 18 months? 6. So nobody's going to leave a real good job that they're really good at and really enjoy to take the risk of taking a club forward in the situation that we're in. Nobody's going to take that risk. Yes, it's the thing that got me for him. It just felt like it was a massive honour to be even asked, and he was going to give it the best that he could. But he was very happy to go back and do what he's really good at. But I think you guys are right. There's plenty of potential there. I mean, how old is he? What, 40? There's plenty of time yet for Johnny Worthington to be a head coach or a manager, hopefully at Town. Yeah, I think to grow him. But when we appointed Schofield, that he was the next cab off the rank, but he just so wasn't ready for it, was he? And I think Worthy's shown that he could be ready for it if they look at that succession planning and have him in mind, because it would be great to have one of our own leading our club and being successful in the Championship or potentially higher, hopefully.
Well, the club are about to pump a load of money into the academy as well, aren't they? So what a good time to be leading that operation as a club suddenly are turning the academy back on properly, and they're going to invest in it properly. What a great time. And having seen how Worthy operates in the press and with people, you have to say, I can't think of a better bloke to be in charge of it than that guy. You know, that operation, which is going to be vital for a club like ours, is clearly going to be in some safe hands, isn't it? Which is really encouraging.
He's a smart lad. It's absolutely the right decision. Absolutely the right decision to step back. You know, he's a credit to his family, to quote the great Mark Fotheringham, if I dare. But you know, it's very, very reassuring that we've got somebody there that's willing to step up to the plate if something should go wrong. Touch wood, it won't, but it's very reassuring to have that guy on board. And like you say, Gaz, he's got a brilliant job there already in the academy. So it's absolutely the right thing to do to step back into that role where he can flourish. And there's always going to be that opportunity to step up. He's shown what he can do now. Fans don't forget that. So he's already won them over before he started. So if he ever was to go back into that position, he's already starting from a high, isn't he? So I think, I mean, I agree. The Darren Moore press conference, I listened. I managed to get through more than Trista. I got through 2, and then I stopped listening. The only time I put them on is if I was struggling to sleep. It was like whale music, or something. Do you know what I mean? Just soothe, calming, just send you straight off. But it was just chalk and cheese. You see Worthy on the touchline going mental, kicking every ball and getting into the water breaks, getting into the players, and Darren Moore would just stand there and. Everyone says he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but football isn't about being a nice guy. It's about getting stuck in and making changes and not being afraid to make decisions and get the players G'd up. And I just didn't see any of that, unfortunately. And when you're in a relegation battle, it's just not what you want to see. You need to see some pride and some passion. And that takes us on to our new appointment, lads. And I've got to be honest, Andre Breitenreiter, I had not got a clue who this guy was when it was announced. And I dare say most of the town fans didn't either, apart from the usual 1 or 2 trying to pretend that they know everything about football and and that they knew about him. But I've done a bit of reading around, and he's had spells at Paderborn, Schalke, Hanover, Zurich, Hoffenheim, and he's had a bit of a mixed bag. Did really well with Zurich, winning a title, which isn't easy there, to be honest, because young boys have won it pretty much every season, barring that one time that he won it with Zurich. And he did really well at Paderborn, which is to draw a comparison, kind of similar to us, in that they were sort of the championship, their equivalent of the championship, took them up and did do well there. Didn't do as well at Schalke and Hoffenheim, but he's known for his aggressive style. I've kind of looked at the way that he's set up with Paderborn, and it tended to be more of a 4-4-2, 4-5-1 formation, but very, very aggressive. It was basically very, very little possession, but when you did have the ball, you made sure you did something with it. So he'd sit with 2 holding midfielders in front of a back 4, and they would be responsible for the distribution. It would be very, very quick transition on the counter-attack. So just either long balls over to look for the striker running in behind, or ping it out to 2 wingers who are very, very high up the pitch. So they do track back, but they're traditionally very, very high up the pitch in wait for the balls distributed from the defensive midfielders, and try and aggressively win the ball high up the pitch. If they lose it in the defensive position, again, whereas most teams will probably sit back and go back towards goal to try and defend, his teams have a tendency to rush out and try and stop the attack early, which is quite frightening considering we've got Leeds and West Brom to on the horizon. But it sounds kind of similar in a way to how Worthy had us playing, in that high press, high intensity, attack-minded ethos. The only thing to me which worries me is that takes a lot of energy, and we're 14 games from the end of the season. The fitness levels I don't think are particularly good anyway. We've got some difficult teams to play. It could either go one way or the other, couldn't it? We could either continue Worthy's good work and continue to surprise teams and get enough wins to see us over the line, or we could get absolutely murdered looking at it. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I think it's an exciting appointment in the sense that I've never heard of him, and he could be either brilliant or he could be a disaster. But it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? And he does have experience. He does have experience. This isn't a Jan Sievert or, dare I say, even a David Wagner who didn't have the experience, although one was obviously much more successful than the other. But like any managerial appointment, it's a gamble, isn't it? And I guess we've got to just get behind him and just see how it develops.
I think for me it is very much a manager brought in to suit the style of players that we've got, isn't it? We're not bringing Corberan in to play a completely different style of football. It is someone who is going to suit, I think, the players. And like you alluded to, Nick, it's probably someone who's akin to how Worthington's played, with probably a little bit more experience and a little bit more structure and organisation. One thing I read about his time at Zurich was that he improved the defence, and that was a lot around the positioning of the defenders and being smarter with how they position, how they set up and that kind of thing. So for me, if he can, singly, if he can bring that to the team, that's an important start. I think very recently we've been pretty average defensively, and with relatively similar defenders to the season that we actually did well with Corberan, with the likes of Lees and Pearson and people like that. I think there's obviously just something not quite right with the team at the minute, or with the team over the past kind of 12 months or so, and with those players defensively. So I think for me it is exciting in the sense that it's, as you say, it's a bit of the unknown, but also he comes with the experience, and he comes with what seems to be a style of football that is going to work for us. And I think hopefully he can build on what's there, to be honest with you.
I'm just having a look at his Wikipedia entry, and something's just alarmed me a little bit. He won the title with Zurich. It's only a 10-team league, so they've played 36 games, but they've played every other team 4 times. So you only have to be half decent to be finishing like in top 3 or 4. Because if the bottom sides are poor, I don't want to take away. Now, I've never managed a team in the Zurich Super League to win a title, but that's something I hadn't realised, that it's one of them that is, the quality maybe isn't there. Then it's a bit more strict.
He's done 12 years as a manager, Andy, and 7 of those 12 years he's managing the Bundesliga. So this is the equivalent of a 7-year veteran Premier League manager across 3 teams. So you can't try. I think because I'm like you, all I'm going on is his Wikipedia. I've got to go on, and when you look at actually his time with bigger clubs, so Hanover and Schalke, his win rate's not been the greatest. Put him in at Paderborn, put him in at Zurich, and suddenly he's clocking up the wins. So I think I'm hoping he's going to bring some more of that terrier spirit, some of that no limits vibe that we had before, because that's what I love. That I felt personally, I felt part of it. I felt like I could make jack shit difference, but I felt like I could, and that was important. But that was the important thing, wasn't it? We all honestly, I've followed Huddersfield a long time, and I've never felt as engaged with the club and then I did those 2 seasons, and if he brings a little bit of that back, then I'm all for it. And let's be honest, would you rather have this or Alex Neil, Gary Rowett, John Eustace, or even Michael Duff? Oh, by the way, did you see Kev's video diary about saying that was all cobblers, that they never said to? It sounds like they said to him right at the very beginning, "You'll have to relocate," and he said, "No, you're all right." Whereas there's been quite a bit of rumour and other stuff floating about, hasn't there? So good old Carmichael Dave helping clear up the questions that we all had. But I'm excited, and it's a long time since I actually felt excited about anything happening at the club. So I know people aren't some people aren't Kev's biggest fan because of how he conducts himself on his social profiles, but the guys bought the club. He came in January, saw with his own eyes what we needed. He put his hand in his pocket, and now you can now say he's appointed a manager that genuinely excites. And I don't know what happened with Darren Moore. I'm not sure he was Kevin's man, as we've talked about before. But this guy, he just ticks lots of boxes. Could be an absolute car crash, but it's going to be exciting trying to find out.
I think you bang on.
Sorry.
I think you bang on there, Gaz. I think it's underrated what actually Sean Jarvis did in that with that Wagner spirit, Wagner revolution, Terrier spirit type thing, because you know, as good as the football was, there were times when, you know, just imagine if he hadn't done that and it was in front of 12,000 fans rather than, you know, 17 or 18 or 19,000 fans. I think it was completely underrated, and I think probably to some extent, you know, we've seen people like Jacko, Warnock, Wagner, you know, Worthington to some extent, people that really kind of they almost played the crowd a little bit. They kind of excited the crowd. Probably Corberan was the exception to that a little bit, and there might be one or two others. But you know, we've gone through Chris Powell's, we've gone through Darren Moore's, Brian Horton's, you know, etc. etc. So it quite obviously is asking for one type of kind of personality, isn't it? You know, but I think just going back to Breitenreiter, I think one thing that I did see as well was that I think at Hanover maybe or Hoffenheim he had a bad time with the owners. So the kind of there is a suggestion that perhaps to kind of maybe not discount, but that was a factor that played to that. But I think as well we've got to probably appreciate that, as Nick alluded to right at the start, we're probably more akin to someone like Paderborn, who were probably the underdog a little bit, and you know they had a team that had Elias Kachunga in it, you know, and probably were more of a, rather than the kind of frills and all that kind of thing, we're probably more of a grafting team, and you know, one that actually we can probably associate with ourselves. So I think it's more some of those comparisons that appeal to me, to be quite honest with you. And you know, it's good that he's won at Zurich. It shows that he's got kind of a winning mentality, and he's got the ability to take them and win the title. But I think it excites me a little bit more at Paderborn. And I think you kind of alluded to it as well, Gaz, that, you know, at the end of the day, right at this minute of time, not to be one of the kind of happy clappers, but we're, you know, okay, we have been up in the Premier League and we've got those aspirations, but right at this minute in time, we're kind of 20th in the Championship, or 21st when he was appointed in the Championship. We've gone through 6 managers in 12 months, as Andy alluded to. There is a part of that proposition that's not attractive, you know, and whether people want to say that I'm doom and gloom or whatever, you know, let's just be honest, that is the situation there. But actually, it seems like we're picking from the top of probably that group of managers that we might be able to get. You know, someone like Cooper or, you know, Potter, or these names that were thrown about that were probably outside of our league. You know, we've probably picked the top of what is within our kind of reach, and I think that hopefully, again, as you said, Gaz, you know, that's Kev. That's the mentality that hopefully is instilling into, you know, try and go for the best that you can that's within your reach, sort of thing.
He'll have been the top end of the budget. He won't be cheap. You know, he's been a Bundesliga manager for 7 years, so he would have been used to being on good money. So this is not a cheap option, I wouldn't have thought either.
At least we didn't have to pay Moore and Warnock, do we? Now they've got new jobs to free up some cash there, maybe. So, I mean, should we be excited or should we be shit scared? That's the thing, because we're only 2 points above the relegation zone. That's the question, and I'd be much more excited if he was coming in and we were safe and we were planning a pre-season, you know, in time for a nice Championship pre-season, get his ideas across, ready to hit the ground running. But if you look at the next 4 fixtures we've got Cardiff, Leeds, West Brom, and we've got Watford, haven't we, next away? That they're 4 really tough fixtures, I think, on paper. and we could conceivably be in the bottom 3 by the end of those. It's going to be very difficult for him to get his ideas across in such a short space of time, and the energy required to play that style of football, game in, game out. The risk is that we pick up more injuries, that they can't sustain it for the 90 minutes. There's a lot of risks with it, but and another thing as well, we talked about Hogg already, but from what I've seen of his style of play, like I said, with the 2 midfielders sitting deep, them distributing out, that relies on good ball distribution from those positions. And do we really have players in that position that can play those types of passes to get the counter-attacks going? I'm not sure we do at this moment in time. So I think there's going to need to be some recruitment in the summer, and I think everyone that's been crying out for a ball-playing midfielder might finally get the wish, because I think we're going to need one to be able to play this style. It says we're not going to have much of the ball in this style, but it's going to be very fast, very aggressive, high press, counter-attack. It's going to be exciting, but my fear is that the excitement will quickly turn to realization that we're going the shit if it doesn't work quickly. It could go either way, couldn't it? It could go either way. I just hope it goes the right way, because I do worry with these 4 fixtures. I mean, really looking at April, the fixtures are actually quite favourable, but I don't want to be coming out into April in that bottom 3.
I think if he does what he's done, like looking at his previous track record, I don't know the exact number of points per game, but I worked it out. He'll get 16, 17 points if he just replicates his win percentage and his draw percentage from all his previous stuff, and that will be good enough.
42% average win percentage.
Yeah, so at 14 games left, he wins 4 of them and he draws another 3. What's that? 15 points, something like that? 15, 16 points. So if he does that, we're safe. But like you said, can he get his ideas across? But it seems to be just an evolution of what Worthy's been trying to do on the front foot, getting forwards. The players have maybe had 4 or 5 games and a bit of training to get used to this type of style, because it's what Nagel wanted as well. So maybe they've had a bit more practice than we think. And yeah, what a great home debut for him against that lot down the M62. Fantastic! If he can get involved in a bit of a scrap with Farker on the touchline and get in front at Cowshed, because Wagner did it at the wrong end, didn't he? He should have done it in front at Cowshed. But if you get something like that, the man will go down in history.
They'll be bickering in German, won't they? Farker, swearing at each other in German. I don't know any German swear words, but
yeah, Scheißen. That's all I've got. For you.
Grossen Scheißen, yeah. I'm hoping we might actually, for once, get a bit of a new manager bounce, because the one thing the other clubs aren't going to be able to do for at least a couple of games is work out what this bloke's going to do, because they're all going to be doing what we're doing. Looking at Wikipedia and watching some of his own games. I'm not really sure what it's going to tell them. And what was interesting, because I looked at it like you and I just thought, God, they look like 4-round fixtures. Actually, Watford, if you look at the last 10 games form table, Watford are 6th bottom and Cardiff are 4th bottom. Watford won on Saturday, first time they've won in 5 games. Cardiff have only won twice in 10. So those 2 teams aren't in great form, and Watford seems to be a bit of a happy hunting ground for us as well, doesn't it? We went down there last year and pulled it out of the bag. So I've got my tickets like a madman, so I'll be going and enjoying that on Saturday. But yeah, I think the other thing as well, the German managers, and Wagner used to do a bit of this, and is that he may pick the games, he may pick and choose, and he may, he's not daft, so he'll know, like you say, he'll know he cannot afford not to pick up 3 wins, 3 draws. He'll know what he needs, so he'll be cute enough to target. You would think Watford might be one, Rotherham certainly will, Stoke might be another, Millwall might be another. Yeah. We've got some teams in and around us still to play, so it's very much in our own hands. It really is. But I think that's the thing that I'm looking for. We might actually, for once, we never get a new manager bounce, do we? For once, we might actually get one.
Or was Worthy the new manager bounce? Maybe Worthy was the new manager bounce.
Call me logic, Andy.
I think to answer your question, Nick, should we be scared or not? There is probably a couple of saving graces in there that, Millwall are dropping like a stone. There's some other teams. Plymouth rely on the home form, and it depends who they're playing. I haven't looked who they're playing against, but they seem to be struggling. Obviously, Eustace has gone into Blackburn and might make a difference, but they were, to that point, they were absolutely dropping like a stone. And Stoke are the other one. They don't seem to be doing up. And you might get someone like Bristol City as well dragged into it, and that Liam Manning that's gone there. Again, it seems to not have turned things round. So, all of a sudden you've got someone like him that's relatively kind of inexperienced, and could they get dragged into it? They might have too many points at this minute in time, but I think there's probably a lot of other factors that are out there that we shouldn't be too worried. I also had a quick look at QPR's fixtures, and I think this weekend coming up, I think they've got a relatively similar run to us. So they've got Leeds to play, they've got, I think, Middlesbrough to play, they've got West Brom to play, etc. So yeah, I think to be honest with you, we're not in as dire position, I don't think, as perhaps we could have been. Equally, we could have been in a better position probably if we'd have acted a little bit sooner.
Okay,
but yeah, I'm relatively calm until we go and lose these next 4 games, and then and then I'll come back and agree with Nick.
Yeah, I'm just being pessimistic, mate. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm excited, really. I think we've just got to be cautious, haven't we? That you never know what you're going to get with these type of managers. I'm hoping it's going to be similar to when Wagner came in, that we didn't even necessarily get. It wasn't all wins when he came in, but you could definitely see a change in style, mindset early, couldn't you? And we got enough points to stay up, and then he built in the pre-season, and we were away. I mean, looking at I'm just having a look now in April. We've Stoke away, Millwall at home, Swansea at home, Birmingham at home. These are games that we should really be getting points from. So I think if we can get to April and we're not in the bottom 3, I think we've got every chance of staying up. And I think we should do, really, with the team we've got. I don't think we're a bottom 3 side on paper at all. I think if really a lot of these draws we got under Moore, we probably should have got more points from, and we would have been mid-table already, wouldn't we? Let's be honest. So. But yeah, we'll see. We'll await his first press conference and see what he has to say. It's going to be exciting, but I think we'll end it there, guys, because we've done nearly an hour and 10 there. We've talked about. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to talk about before we wrap this up. No, brilliant. So onwards and upwards, and exciting times, and we'll see what happens down at Watford. As Gas says, it's normally been quite a happy hunting ground. So that has consigned us to a defeat, obviously. What's your predictions, guys, before we end this? So we always end on with our predictions. For me, I think I'm going to be positive, because I think you're right. I think Watford, they're going to have no idea whatsoever how we're going to play, and I think we could catch them by surprise. And to be honest, yeah, you're right. Watford have nothing to play for. They're not going up. They're not going down. They can't be arsed most of the time, can they? So I think we're going to get a nice 2-1 victory and push us 5 points clear of the drop zone.
1-1 for me.
Well, I'm with you, Nick. I fancy a 2-1. I think maybe even a 3-1. I think Watford are no great shakes all season, which, as you say, means they're going to absolutely pump us. Now I've said that.
We'll keep it. We'll clip this, mate, for the next episode.
That'd be lovely. Yeah. No, I just think everything's coming together finally. It just feels a bit like it. And but for 30 seconds of madness on Saturday, if we'd have just kept our edge for that last minute, we would have come away with a good point, and we wouldn't be feeling perhaps as deflated as we are today. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. Can't wait. Honestly, I'm genuinely excited. So 2-1, 3-1 maybe.
Yeah, I think we might sneak a win as well. I think Watford at home recently they haven't scored many at home. So I think we've got to go and attack them, and if we can get the first goal, I don't see why we can't go get another, maybe even, as Gaz says, maybe even a third. So yeah, I'll say 2-0. And hopefully we can get Andre off to a good start.
They don't like it if you get stuck into under their Watford. If we're aggressive, press them, they won't like it, and they'll shrink into themselves quite quickly. So let's hope we can take advantage. But let's hope for the 3 points, guys. But everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll be back after the Watford game, and hopefully another 3 points. Take care, everyone. See you soon.